Good morning. Today's lesson will be very quick. It's just taking our completing the square just a bit further. So we've always dealt with completing the square when it's just x squared by itself. But sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes the a value isn't just 1, and so it's not x squared by itself. So there's nothing really new except for we got to get it to x squared by itself before we can complete the square. So if I want this just to be x squared, well, this is 4 times x squared. So all I'm going to have to do is divide by whatever value is going to turn it into just x squared. So in this case, there's a 4. So that means I'm going to have to divide both sides by 4. The nice thing about this is 0 divided by anything is just nothing. And so that doesn't really mess with us in too big a way. So now 4 divided by 4 is just going to be x squared. Negative 8 divided by 4 is just going to be negative 2. And negative 40 divided by 4 is just going to be negative 10. And now I'm good to complete the square. So the only thing that's new is when the a value isn't 1, like in this case it was 4, we just need to divide both sides by that value. And now we're free to pretty much just start completing the square. And so now I see this negative 2x. Remember, my question is what has to go on the end to make that a perfect square? Well, half of negative 2 is negative 1, and negative 1 times negative 1 is just positive 1. So that's telling me that I need this to be a positive 1. So to make that happen, let's add 11 to both sides, leaving me 11 equals x squared minus 2x plus 1. And sure enough, if you had created the box, you would see that this factors down perfectly. So once again, you may create the box, but I'm just going to skip straight to the factors. So this will end up being, messed up already. This will end up being x minus 1 times x minus 1. So once again, if you box, you'll see that this factors down to this. Remember, the whole point of that is identical factors allow us to write it as that factor squared, which allows us to use our tool of saying we don't want the square anymore, so let's square root to cancel, which means we have to square root the left side. And remember, that's going to result in the square root of 11 equals x minus 1, and the square root of 11, negative square root of 11 equals x minus 1. All right. And we're just one step away from finding our solution. We just got to add 1 to both sides, because if you check the square root of 11, you're going to get an ugly decimal. It'll be 3 point something. So just leave it with a plus 1. There's answer 1 for an x-intercept. And remember, the other answer is going to be identical, other than it's the negative square root. And there we have it. So just to reiterate, when the number in front of x squared, the a value isn't 1, just say, okay, what is it? Divide both sides by that value so that you're left with just an x squared, and then you're completing the square like normal. That's it. So for today's assignment, there's only 3 problems with an optional 4th if you want a bit of a challenge. So I just want to kind of wrap up this completing the square idea. Good luck, and as always, reach out if you have questions.